Hello and welcome back to the channel and back to another weekly what I watched. I've moved around a little, we're losing light, it's getting to that time of year. I don't have my ring light with me. I try to get these squeezed in as quick as possible before my son comes back from school. So I'm facing a window and I'm hoping it's light enough, so apologies for that. I'm not into Lego, well, I do like Lego actually, but that is my son's. So without further ado, let's get on with what I watched this past week. So, we'll start with on the 28th, Breaking Point, Untold Breaking Point. Okay, so there are a series of documentaries on Netflix at the moment that follow sporting stars. This one follows Marty Fish, who is a tennis star. I'm not particularly into sport or sporting shows, but I do like a good documentary. And this series of Untold documentaries are very, very good. I spoke before about the one about the female boxer, which was fantastic, because there's so much that goes on in it. This is a story of mental health and a breakdown. Marty Fish, it follows him from a child. He lives with his friend Andy Ruddock, who you may recognise that name as another famous tennis player. He lives with Andy and his parents, and they train just ridiculous amounts growing up. He has it honed into him from a very young age that he's going to be a famous tennis star. It follows his battles with other opponents, him trying to beat his friend and never being quite good enough. And it gets to the point that when he does experience some kind of success, he starts to break down fully. He has a full breakdown, and some of that is actually shown on the court. Some of it happens when he's playing. This is a really interesting documentary. It covers obviously mental health. Marty Fish is very open about everything that happened. We do interview Andy Ruddock a lot in this as well, from an outsider's, someone looking into his friend, what his friend was going through. This is an excellent documentary. If you're into that sort of thing and you like to follow a person's journey, I would recommend this. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I give it a 3.5, I think. Yep, 3.5 out of 5. So the next evening, right, this is one I watched over press the right button, Lisa. And again, you're going to be thinking I'm incompetent completely. You probably wouldn't be far wrong. So Midnight Mass is a new series which I'm sure you're all aware of on Netflix, by Mike Flanagan. This is set in a small... I'm not going to go into massive detail because a lot of people, as I've said before, do that much better than me. This is a show set on a small island of very religious individuals who have a new priest that comes to their island, a new sort of enigmatic priest. The older priest is in ill health, he's recovering on the mainland. We also follow a young man who is coming back from a stint in prison where there was a terrible accident. He went to prison for what happened. He's coming back home to his family, who are very religious like everyone else. He's not. And his family are sort of struggling to come to terms with what he's done. And he's trying to reintroduce himself into this island life. Now, I loved this from the get-go, let me tell you. I thought this was fantastic. Some people may say it's a bit slow. I personally love when we get time to get to know characters, where things are just trotting along quite normally and then we start to introduce what's going to happen rather than boom, in your face. We get to know people, and we do in this very much. I am going to give you a couple of negatives, which may not be negatives for you, but I'm just going to give you my thoughts. Okay, so this is all centred around a chapel and mass and a priest, so therefore it's going to be very, very religious heavy, and this is very religious heavy. For full disclosure, I was brought up Catholic. I had a very religious upbringing. I was brought up more or less by my grandparents and parents in the same household. So that very old traditional Catholic viewpoint was very much instilled in me then. It's not something I've continued as an adult, but very much as growing up. So this show does have a lot of references to the Bible, to Bible verse, to stories within the Bible that if you haven't had a religious upbringing, you probably will miss a lot of what they're referring to. You don't need to be aware of it to enjoy the show, but it's just worth pointing out. Please be aware going in, if something that's very religious heavy makes you uncomfortable, this maybe isn't the show for you. Think Carrie's mother rammed up to 10, and you're talking this show. Carrie had elements of religion with the mother, but this is what this whole thing's like. So now that's out of the way, the religious is a bit heavy. The other thing I would say is that we follow a character called Riley, the guy that comes back from being in prison. I felt, now I don't think this is a reflection on the acting per se, but I felt the character himself was very weak, was very wishy-washy, was very uninteresting. and I felt we concentrated too long on him, which is exactly what Sean said, and he's so right. I just felt his character was probably the weakest. There are even some side characters in this that have stronger presences than Riley's character, so I would have liked to have had him as a side character rather than so central to the story. In saying that, I can't fault the acting of all the individuals. There is one, I'm going to scroll down, one particular actress, Samantha Sloyan, who plays Bev Keane. This character, Bev, I hated her, which means that the job has been done perfectly. She is the really uptight, religious zealot, look down her nose at everyone, judgmental, horrible, nasty woman in the village, and her performance is amazing. I loved her. I hated her, but I loved the performance. So yeah, I would say religious heavy. The character of Riley could have been better. And the other thing, there are a couple of pieces in this where there is monologue. There's one episode in particular where Riley is speaking to a girl that he dated years ago that lives there. And they're having a discussion, and more or less the whole episode is them discussing for them what it would mean to die. And it's really long-winded and really dull, and I was losing the will to live in this particular episode. If you strip that away, I adored this, but there were just little bits that were just too indulgent to monologues that I felt was a bit much. Now, other people may love that. That for me just took me out of it and bored me. But overall, I think it's a fantastic series. I would thoroughly recommend it. I give it a 4 out of 5. And I talked much longer about that than I meant to. On the 30th, I watched No One Gets Out Alive. Now, I think again it was Sean that reviewed this, which made me think, oh, I want to watch this. So this, alright, yes, this is a story of a young immigrant woman that has, through no real fault of her own, ended up with that kind of status. She's living in the US, and she's living in a house renting from an individual that it becomes clear has got other people with a similar status to her living there. Things start to happen in the house. There are things that she's seeing out of the corner of her eye. There's things moving, there's noises, and this ramps up and it gets to the point where it's intolerable and she has to get out, but she's got nowhere to go. And in the end, she is forced to actually face what's going on in this house. There's a lot more to it than that. This movie is batshit crazy. It is... The cinematography in this and the mood building in this is first rate. For the first 3/4 of this movie, the eerie, creepy vibe, which was only added to by the lighting, the cinematography, the sound design, the acting's fantastic. It's really creepy, and I love when I can watch something and you make me feel creeped out, because I watch a lot of horror and not a lot gets to me, but this is really creepy. And then in the final act, in the last quarter of this movie, it just goes mad. There is things that we see that I want to pause and think, what the hell's that? What am I looking at? What's coming out of what? Weird. Just out and out how this ends is just, your eyes will be like trying to work out what you're looking at. I can't say any more than that, but it goes from weird, creepy vibes to just out and out jaw dropping. Oh my god, at the end of this movie. I thoroughly enjoyed this one. You can see there we've got ratings from Austin Burke 2.5, Lost in the Rail, Sean gave it a 3. What did I give it? I gave it a 3.5. I really enjoyed it. I loved how it made me feel. I loved the creepiness, and I loved just the colour palette and everything that was used. Would thoroughly recommend, although warning, it is weird. So that was on the 30th. On the 1st, I checked out Jake Gyllenhaal's movie The Guilty. Now this is a remake. Is it a Dutch movie? Okay, so you're probably not bothered about the original. Jake Gyllenhaal, obviously we're going to watch a movie if he's in. As normal, his performance is first rate. This guy cannot act badly. I just have never seen it. This follows a 911 operator, which is a job I used to do. I'll just read what it says here. A demoted police officer assigned to a call dispatch desk is conflicted when he receives an emergency phone call from a kidnapped woman. So he has done something within his career in the police force, so they put him on the 911 desk and he's taking emergency calls. For me, it was ambulance dispatch. For this, it's police dispatch. And he gets that call. Now, there is a movie, I think it's called The Call, and we've got quite a similar concept to that. Although more of this is more drama based. This is more concentrating on Jake Gyllenhaal's performance than what's going on on the other side of the telephone, which the call was more about. Now, I enjoyed this. I thought Jake Gyllenhaal was fantastic. If this was the only version of this I'd seen, I would say, yeah, it's a really good movie, go watch it. But this is a remake of, and I think it's a Dutch movie. I do apologise if I'm wrong, but it's a remake. The original's much better. And it pains me to say that with Jake Gyllenhaal being in this, but I felt the original had more impact for me personally. Maybe it was because it was the first time I'd seen it. Maybe rewatching it, I'm comparing it too much and the impact's not quite the same. But Danish, sorry, there we go. It was Danish, it wasn't Dutch. Yeah, watch the original of this. It is very, very good. Although this is, you know, like with some remakes, they've done a good job with this. So yeah. On the 2nd, I watched The Phantom. Okay, this is a documentary again on Netflix, and this, Who Killed Wanda Lopez? Carlos de Luna was arrested in 1993, aged 21, for the murder of Wanda Lopez and protested his innocence until his execution, declaring that it was another Carlos who committed the crime. This goes straight from the 911 call that the lady makes in a convenience store, that she can see someone entering the store with a knife. Unfortunately, as it's told you here, she is killed and this guy is picked up for the crime. He goes to prison and he is eventually executed. This isn't very long. It's 81 minutes, an hour and 21. And it covers whether or not, is there another Carlos? Did he commit the crime? Is he trying to sort of say that there was someone else that was responsible, or was he responsible? And it covers that. I won't tell you either way. So that's called The Phantom. 2.5. Now, the reason I give it a 2.5 is because I felt they didn't go in depth enough. They didn't at the end. So there was just so much missed. And in a story like this, an hour and 20 minutes is not enough to tell it. I needed more. I needed more detail, more information, which is why I gave it 2.5. I've seen documentaries of a similar ilk that were made much better. So last night, finally, Sunday evening, I watched Infinite with Mark Wahlberg. This is a new movie on Netflix. No, it's not. It's a new movie on Amazon Prime. And it follows Mark Wahlberg's character, who I'm not even going to tell you what the character, Evan McCauley, it's there in front of me. Many lives, unlimited potential. I'm just reading this rather than telling you. Evan McCauley has skills he never learned and memories of places he has never visited. Self-medicated and on the brink of a mental breakdown, a secret group that call themselves Infinites come to his rescue, revealing that his memories are real. Okay, so this is very much an action movie, and it covers this group of infinites, of which Mark Wahlberg is one. And the situation is they never die, they reincarnate over and over and over, and they keep the memories of their past lives, skills they've learned from centuries ago. But Mark Wahlberg has never properly remembered this. He doesn't know this. Generally, by puberty, these infinites remember everything. But he has been diagnosed as schizophrenic. He's been put on medication. He has dreams and he has visions and hallucinations, he feels, which aren't dreams and hallucinations. They're snippets of his previous lives, but he's not aware of this. So it becomes clear that he is instrumental in something that could bring down mankind entirely, and it's up to him to try to get in the way of stopping that from happening. And that's what we follow in this. Now, I like the idea. At the beginning there is a ridiculously long car chase, which just will put me off immediately from anything. I hate it when we just have a car chase that goes on for 5 minutes. It's like, enough already. I'm not watching Fast and the Furious, I'm watching this. There are very extended action scenes. You have to suspend belief completely. There's a scene with a motorbike and an airplane, which is just ridiculous. But this kind of movie, you have to completely suspend belief. Stuff happens that's just like, what the hell am I looking at? It is a okay action movie. I feel that, again, we needed much longer. It felt dragged out until the point where they're trying to have Mark Wahlberg's character regain his memories. And then when that happens, it just rushes and it's over and it's done. And it just feels the first 3/4 of the movie was dragged and the last quarter, which was the important bit, was rushed. It needed more time. Do I feel I wanted to watch, say, a series or a 2-hour film about this? Maybe not. Well, it's an hour 46, so I suppose it is almost 2 hours, but I do feel it could have benefited from the end part being more detailed and the beginning car chase being cut in half at least. It was okay. I gave it a 2.5 out of 5. I felt changes could have been made to make it better. It isn't the kind of movie I would generally go for anyway. Like, an example, like an action movie that I really enjoyed, Boss Level, I thought was really, really good. This I felt was average, so only watch it if that sort of thing is really up your street. And finally, last night, this is a Romanian movie. This is a true story, obviously that's what attracted me. The Father Who Moves Mountains. This is a story about a young couple who we never meet during the movie, and they have gone up into the mountains in Romania and they have got lost. So this guy, the father, and his ex-wife, the lad's mother, are called in along with the girl's parents, and a search ensues in the mountains. If you can hear stuff, my husband's just come back from walking the dogs, so I do apologise. He is ex-intelligence officer, so he has got things at his disposal which your normal person would not have. This follows the search for the couple. It follows his frustration at mountain rescue. It follows him trying to go up with mountain rescue and not being equipped. He's not fit enough. He doesn't have the equipment. He won't listen. He goes anyway. They have to go back with him. The whole thing is his struggle to find his son and resources that he uses to do that. It very much concentrates on his persona, on his personality, on his feelings, decisions he makes, which perhaps just you would not, you're like, what is he doing? Now, the whole movie was really well acted. Everything about it, I can't complain. I thought everything was really good. It says here, Mercia, former intelligence officer, finds out that his son has gone missing in the mountains. He travels there to find him. After days of searches, Mercia puts his own rescue team together, leading to conflict with the local squad. I enjoyed this. I thought it was really informative. It's subtitled, obviously, it's Romanian. The only thing I would say, now I did Google what happened in real life and it was really hard to find any information, but this movie ends before it tells you what happened at the end. The only thing you want to know is, does he find him? And this movie ends before it answers that question, which you're sitting watching it going, this isn't the credits. And then you're thinking they're going to put the text up to say what happened. They don't. And you're thinking, surely not. Surely they can't leave us like this. They did. So I did find out the end of what did happen in real life, and it took some digging to actually find this. When you look up the information, the only thing that you can find is that the director saw this tale on the news and he was really invested in what happened and he kept following it. And he decided then to make a movie about it. So anything you look up about this will tell you about the movie and the director and not the real story. But I did manage to find out what happened. So if you're interested, if you watch it and you can't find it, drop me a little message below and I will see it. I will get back to you and let you know, but I'm sure you can find it. So yeah, that is, now I had a bit of paper where I wrote down what else I was watching that I can't log on here. There was a series, switch off the old recorder. So I watched a series called Chestnut Man, Castagna Man, which is on Netflix. I think it was a 6-parter. The episodes around about an hour each. This basically follows a police detective and her new partner who are investigating murders, and at each murder scene there is a small chestnut man, a man made of chestnuts and matches or chestnuts and twigs left at the scene. And this just basically is following the whole situation. There is loads of interconnecting stories involving a local politician's woman whose daughter was kidnapped a year ago. That all ravels together, which I'm not going to tell you because it will spoil the story. Again, I will direct you to Sean's channel, Lost in the Rail, who did an amazing review of this. If your interest is piqued and you want to know a bit more, I will say it was really good. It's well worth watching. I gave it, I think, a 4 out of 5. I can't log it on Letterboxd because it's a series. Oddly, they allow you to log some series and not others. I've been watching a series called Paranormal Hotel, which is narrated by Dan Aykroyd. That is on Discovery Plus, I believe. And it basically loads of true stories of hauntings that have happened in different hotels, which are sort of have little reenactments in them. I've been watching, there's a new series just come out. Now, I don't like this guy, Zach Bagans, I don't know how he pronounces it. I find him really pretentious, over the top. He's not everybody's cup of tea, he's not mine personally. I feel like when he does shows like Ghost Adventures, the show's more about him and less about what they're looking for. But when Zach Bagans' Ghost Adventures, I just felt it was a platform for him to further himself. He did a movie as well where he spends a night in a particular house and he buys it, I think, and he ends up tearing it down. That's quite good, and I've forgotten what it's called, but if you look up the movie with Zach Bagans about the house, you'll find it. Now, he has a museum. Now, this does interest me, and this museum is over is there 30 rooms in this mansion, and these rooms are filled with different paranormal artifacts. So for example, you know how the couple from the Conjuring franchise whose names have just gone, you know that little museum room they have with Annabelle in the case? Well, Zach Bagans has got a 30-room mansion filled with stuff that have paranormal backgrounds. He's got Bela Lugosi's mirror that there's a story behind. There is a house, a doll's house, which is a replica of a house lived in by Anton LaVey, and there was someone else I've forgotten. Basically, the new series that he's done is with Eli Roth, and they have taken an item from his museum, and each episode is the backstory of that item, but it's told in like a short film, like an hour-long film. Now, when I saw it advertised, I thought it was going to be a documentary about the items and the background, which I would have personally preferred to see interviews with people on the documentary style. This isn't. It's Zach Bagans introduces the episode, he shows the piece, and then they do, like, Eli Roth directs an actual episode with actors. There's only one release to my knowledge at the moment, again on Discovery Plus. It's called The Haunted Museum. I will watch the rest of it, but the first episode, it's not a style that I particularly like. I prefer watching real life people tell me their real life experiences. Yeah, everything you've seen there, the Chestnut Man, Haunted Museum, and Paranormal Hotel, that's what I've been watching this past week. I know there's something else and I've forgotten it. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and as always, any recommendations gratefully received, and I shall speak to you guys next week. Over and out, Family Salims.